Brandon here with Rack Fanatics, and today we're going to bring you another review on another product out there. This is a do-it-yourself product that is really versatile. This is a hydrophics kit. So a lot of times, you know, you go out to buy your bow, or you're going to buy a shotgun, or anything that's camouflaged, and you wonder how that company's done that. This is it. But this is a do-it-yourself kit, so it's going to save you money if you want to do a shotgun yourself. But other than camouflage, they've got a whole range and variety of different patterns and colors. There's actually, on this one here, the actual kit that they send you, there's carbon fiber, there's a metal effect, there's an animal print, wood grain, skulls, many different camo patterns, but there's a big variety out there. So go to www.MyDipKit and check out, you know, what pattern might be best for you. This is basically how it will come. It'll come in a long box, but it's a tube, and of course it's got plastic on the outside to keep the film covered up. So what we've done is we've taken a second one, and we've opened it for you. Now the film is actually wrapped around the tube. You know, you don't want to tear it at all. But you get 1 square meter of film. Along with that, inside you'll get 1 can of high gloss clear. You'll get 1 can of activator. You'll get 1 can. This is a medium silver base coat. And you get 1 can of a primer. Along with that, you also get a scuff pad right here. It's already bound up for you. And you actually get some rubber gloves, because you don't want to do this with your bare hands as it gets all over you. And then you've got this mask. If you're gonna do this inside, you definitely need the mask, but it will be better to be outside where it's well ventilated, because this stuff does stink. The thing that stinks really is the activator, and that's the big thing right here, is the activator. And all this stuff is flammable, so you want to keep it away from some kind of flame or heat. But basically what we're going to do is, you want to take an item and anything you want to dip. It could be, like I said, a gun. It could be, let's say, an Xbox. As long as you know how to take your Xbox apart, or your PlayStation 3, or your Xbox controllers. Any of that kind of stuff that's a hard surface that you can kind of scuff up. Because what you're going to do, you're going to scuff up that piece of whatever you've got, that product. You scuff it up, then you spray the primer on there. Once the primer's on, you let it dry, and then you go ahead with your base coat. And the base coat is what pops out this film in the end when you dip this. Then basically what you'll do is you'll cut a length of film similar to the product you've got, but you need to have enough that when you dip it and you submerge it in water, it's going to cover everything. So you don't want to be too short on the film, but you don't want to use too much and have all the excess. After you dip it, you pull it out, you rinse it off, and then you're good to go, and then you spray your clear coat over top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of show you that process now, and show you how that works. Alright guys, here's a close-up view of everything we've got. We've got your high gloss, you've got your activator, got your primer, you got your base coat. Back here you've got your film, got your scuff pad, you got your little mask, keep your mouth covered, you don't want to inhale these fumes, and of course you got your rubber gloves. So every time you dip something new, change out your gloves. Plain and simple. If you can do this outside, it'd be better. That way it's well ventilated, instead of being inside and having to suck up these fumes. Alright, so now that you've been informed of what this product is, we're going to show you the first couple steps about how to go about dipping. What we're going to dip, we've got a turtle shell. We're going to dip it. I think it'll look pretty neat. You even got the eyes right there looking at you. So we'll dip that with some skull dip. we've got an outlet cover, and it's always best to start with small things like these outlet covers to kind of get used to what you're doing, get the hang of it. Then, took a calculator, we got the case. It covers it. We're going to dip this top case. So, it'll be dipped in the skull pattern that we have. Now, first things first. Take your product, take your scuff pad, scuff it up. You scuff this up so that when you put your primer, you spray your primer on here, it's going to stick. And then once you spray the primer, you spray your paint, and your paint sticks to the primer. So we'll scuff this up. Scuff up our outlet cover. It's one of the easier parts of this. Just make sure you scuff it up enough that, like this outlet cover is pretty shiny, glossy. You can definitely tell whenever you've scuffed it up. Same goes for this cover. I mean, it was kind of nice, but you can see the scuffiness in it, scratches like. Now we're going to scuff up this shell. You won't be able to see much on this scuff-wise, but at least you'll know that you scuffed it up enough to stick. Alright, so just to show you, you can kind of see where it's scuffed up. A little bit of light there. There you can tell a little bit better that way. Alright. Now, basically, you take your primer, shake it up good, lay out whatever you're going to dip. Just give it a nice even coat. Now, we're going to let it sit, we're going to let it dry, and we'll come back and we'll put on the base coat. Okay, so while we got our turtle shell and our little outlet cover over there with primer on it drying out, we're going to show you kind of a little bit of a fast forward type thing. Here is an actual cover. You see it's kind of glossy when I turn it toward the sun. Here's one after it has been painted and primed. You see it's not glossy at all. Then, after we've dipped it, there's your camo pattern. Pretty neat. So, use something small till you get the hang of it. Now, one thing that's kind of cool about this, you know, women like their pink colors, so instead of doing the regular camouflage, we painted one pink. Now, it almost looks kind of orange, but an orange camouflage would be neat too. But this one's pink. After we dipped it, there's your pink camo. Pretty neat, huh? We tried one with yellow. Yellow camo. Kind of sticks out. And then, of course, we tried red. Red's my favorite color, so I wanted to do a blue. I didn't get the paint. You can do any kind of color. You can make any kind of color behind your dip. So, whenever you go to dip something, if you want to make it extra special, maybe your favorite color is blue. Spray paint it in blue. Simple as that. Then you dip it, and then the background is going to be blue. If you can see, I better see in the yellow one, this is the camo pattern, and you see like there's a tree or a limb, whatever you want to call it. You're still going to have your camo pattern, but as you can see, the yellow's in the background. That's the paint. So it's going to make it pop out whether you use red or yellow or pink, orange, green. Anything's going to make it different from what you've got. So it's kind of something neat, you know, if you want to personalize it yourself, you can say, hey, I've got this, but it's pink camo or it's blue camo. So something cool. But now that our stuff's dried, we're going to go ahead and put the base coat on. So let's go check that. Alright, so we got our silver base coat, and you want to just paint this evenly. Make sure your paint's mixed up. And give yourself some even coats. Every time you spray something, you want to make sure you got an even coat. Because if not, you're not going to get that effect behind it like it's needed. Give it a second coat here. Make sure it's good and painted. Alright, so now we're going to let this sit, and by the time it dries, we'll give it at least a day. Let it dry, harden up good, and we'll come back and show you the next steps. Alright, so what we've done so far is we've scuffed up what we want to dip, and we've painted it. Now it's on to cutting out the film to the size that you need for the products you're dipping. Whenever you go to cut this out, when you go and roll it off the film, there's going to be a little tag, and it'll tell you exactly what side to keep up. So when I roll this out, this piece here on top, you're going to want to keep up. And if you cut that first piece, you're going to need to remember that for later on, because you might forget it, or you might go a month without dipping something. So just try to remember which way is always up. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to show you exactly how you want to cut this out. We've got our top to our calculator. We're going to lay it out here. And we've got our piece here that shows us this side needs to lay up whenever you put it on the water. So whenever you lay this in the water and you spray it, it's going to start to move out and expand. So you want to give yourself enough room that you've got a little bit of extra in case you need it. So what we're going to do is basically cut almost about 1 inch around this for dipping. So there's about the size that we've got. We'll turn it sideways so you can see a little better. And what we're also going to have to do is put some tape around the outside edges to kind of keep it together. Alright, so we're going to move on. We've got our outlet cover left, and we've got our turtle shell that we're going to dip. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut straight across to kind of save some of this film, and then I'll be able to split it in between. So we're going to give us a cut right here in the front, and then we'll basically cut now. You see we've got enough for both pieces here. Move this out of your way. You see we got enough for both pieces. So basically I'm going to give a little less for the outlet cover compared to the turtle shell because it's got a little bit bigger area to dip. So we'll go ahead and cut that kind of smaller, but enough that it won't affect it. So now you can see we got enough for both pieces here. Alright, last step before you can actually dip. Get yourself some masking tape like we've done. And what we're going to need to do is go around the outside edges to keep its shape. It will expand, but it'll hold its shape enough to where it's not going to screw it up, or you're not going to have maybe too much on one side or the other. So we'll go ahead and we'll tape it up for you and show you exactly what it looks like. Cut off the edges here. Just don't have any extra. And there you can see that it's been taped all the way around. Alright, so after you've got it taped all the way around the edges, we're going to make a little slit in each corner. And what this slit is going to do is it's going to allow the film to expand, but because of the masking tape, it's actually going to keep its shape. So it's not really going to affect the shape, but it will help it expand without coming apart. So that's a big help when you go to dip this. So there we go. We've got all 4 corners cut, and actually I'll probably make little slits in each one of these so that it can actually expand a lot more. So with that being said, we're going to actually move on to the dipping part, and this will be like the last stage of this process, or close to the last stage anyway. Alright, so we're ready to start dipping, but before we actually start dipping, I'm just going to give you a little bit of kind of an insight on kind of what you need. You're going to need some kind of tub to dip your items into. It's going to have to be something whereas when you dip it down inside, you've got enough room underneath that you can shake off the item and get the excess off. Next thing you're going to need is you're definitely going to need some extra rubber gloves if you're going to do more than one dip. And that's what we plan on doing, so you're going to want to change out your gloves. We've got a little dog cage behind us that's going to be perfect for setting these items on top of it when it's done to let it dry. And the last thing we really need to do is, it'd be tough to actually hold this itself and dip it down into the water because your fingers would be on the parts that need to be dipped. So what we're going to do is show you a way that you can actually hold on to it where it's not going to affect the actual pattern. Get you a little bit of masking tape. Basically fold it together in half. Then take what you're dipping, put it against there, and actually you've made yourself a little handle. Now all you got to do is hold that, so when you go to dip, you just dip it right down in there. So we're going to do that with the rest of these. Now I'm going to dip this bottle, and I've taped up the whole entire top because this is actually the piece that comes off that unscrews, and we're going to use that piece to actually grip it and dip it down in. But we've got our turtle shell we need to do, and we've got our outlet cover that we're going to dip. So we'll just take off another piece, tear it off, make us a little part to hold on to, reach down in here, and we'll try to attach it where it won't come off at all. This is a turtle shell, so it's going to be a little bit different. Alright, so that should work good enough that it'll hold it when we dip. Right, so the last piece we've got is this outlet cover, and it's the last one we're going to dip in the skull pattern. So we're actually going to get a little smaller piece, put it together, and there we have it. There's our last piece. Now you can see it kind of sticks through, it shows through, but when you dip it and you pull that tape off, you're not going to have any issues with that. So let's get to dip. Alright, so our water's still a little hot right now. Directions say that you want to have the water between 70 and 80 degrees to make this thing really work. So whenever you do go to dip and you go lay this film in here, you're kind of going to want to put it, if you can kind of curl it up a little bit, and then when you go down into the water, you want to do it slowly as to where you don't get any bubbles in there. Because if you got bubbles, it's going to keep you from having that film go over top of the item that you are actually dipping. So just keep that in mind. Another thing is, we're going to dip probably 4 or 5 things on here. We're probably going to dip 2 things before we change the water. I've had problems before where I've dipped some items and I've came back and I laid film down, and from the activator already being around the outsides, it actually started to eat the film before I was able to even dip anything. So it basically ruined the film. So, you know, change it every 2 or 3 times anyway. At least if you're going to do something big, change it every time that you dip an item, just so that it doesn't screw it up at all, just to be on the safe side. So we're going to let this cool down, and then we'll dip some items here for you guys. Alright, so we're going to dip our outlet cover first. So basically we're just going to lay this down on the water. going to let it sit about 60 seconds before you actually spray the activator on it. We're going to shake that up just a little bit. Give it enough time that it'll sit there. Now if you can see, there's actually some ripples in there from the actual film, but as we spray this, you should be able to see it go away. And just apply a smooth, even coat over the whole entire film. As you can see, it's already starting to expand. Let's go in at an angle. And once you're down in there, just shake it off just a little bit. Get that excess rid of up there. And just like that, we've got our outlet cover. Now we're going to hang this and let it dry. We'll actually rinse it off in about 15 seconds or so. But it looks good. And you can see the actual the pattern on the tape, but when you peel this tape off, it'll be just fine. I'm going to dip a turtle shell. Where it's not moving. And you can see it's starting to liquefy, starting to break apart on the corners. If we can hold this thing good enough, we should be able to dip it pretty good. Get that excess off of there. Wow, that looks awesome. Turtle shell dipped in skulls. Pretty neat. Lay it right out. Spray our activator on it. It's actually starting to eat away a little bit on the activator. So we'll go ahead and we'll dip. And there's our calculator lid with the skull pattern. Looks pretty neat. I say so myself. So we'll go ahead and we'll change out this water and we'll dip a few other things for you. Looks good. Alright, so we're pretty much done dipping items to show you guys. Here's our skull pattern on the turtle shell, the skull pattern on our calculator cover, and the same pattern on this electrical cover. We also did the camouflage pattern on our stock, our shotgun. You can see it there. As well as the barrel. Get a nice close up. Barrel's good. Even this piece that goes on your tube there, it's all done. It's all done in camo, so it come out good. Alright, so those are just a few of the items we dipped. You can dip anything you want as long as it's got a hard surface. If you want to dip an AR, I mean, you can take an AR apart pretty easily, dip everything, put it back together. So check out MyDipKit at www.mydipkit.com. We'll post a link here at the end of the video. Check them out on Facebook as well. I know this is kind of new. It can be difficult, so it's good to use something small, something cheap to begin your testing with, like the outlet covers. So if you get the chance to do this, start with your outlet covers. Start with something small anyway, and work your way up. One other thing, I know I mentioned earlier in the video, I think I called it hydrographics. It's hydrographics, which basically hydro is water, and then graphics, so it's water graphics, and basically that's it. I mean, you're dipping something in water to get your graphics. So check them out, MyDipKit.